Here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA Show. And it's Christmas Day, and we got the fam here. I got my little niece Layla right here.
What's up? Merry Christmas.
She wanted to be a part of the show, and I got my dog here too. He's kind of hanging out. What's up, Justin? He's repping the Lions jersey.
Let's go. NFC North champs, first time since 93, Super Bowl bound. Detroit, let's fucking go.
Yeah, that's so crazy. It's been so long. Well, so here's the thing. We got some kind of exciting news. The show's growing. Our channel, as of today, I don't know if you know this, but our channel, Justin, today is now at 127 subscribers,
Oh, yeah.
which is kind of cool. We're steadily approaching 200. And shout out to MMA Joey. I've been watching his stream and kind of commenting on his stuff. I've become quite a fan of that guy. The more and more I watch his stuff, he knows his stuff. I like his stuff, and he's actually given us some ideas because I've been commenting on the streams. I'll tell you about that offline, kind of what suggestions he's made. Some pretty cool ones. But anyways, yeah, he shouted us out, and I think some of his subscribers subscribe. So hopefully, if they do end up joining today or watch the show later, they will appreciate it. We hope. And there's a couple of cool things I want to talk about. First of all, Merry Christmas to everybody. Sorry, I'm trying to get this guy to calm down. He's going berserk here. But I wanted to start with this news about Conor McGregor. Okay, so Conor is kind of making headlines all over the place for going on this rant while at this latest boxing event. Now I know you're not the biggest fan of Conor, but it was kind of interesting, and he's almost putting it against the UFC, saying he wants to fight, he's waiting for a fight, they're taking away his livelihood. And it's so crazy because everybody's talking about him potentially headlining UFC 300. We're going to talk about that when we look at the fantasy matchup, the fantasy card, but he's supposed to be headlining UFC 300 against Michael Chandler or somebody theoretically, but he's upset. He feels like, so what do you think is going on here? Do you think this is a contract negotiation issue? What do you think's the problem?
You know, I've heard through the grapevine that it's a drug relation issue, that, he's juiced up right now and he can't pass the drug test. I've heard that. I've heard that he can't come into terms with an opponent. I mean, that's the one thing, Conor McGregor is a superstar, and I'm a fan of him. I love watching him. I love his pre-fight shenanigans. I think he's one of the best in the world. And, for a long time, he backed it up. But the problem I have with him, headlining an event like UFC 300 is Conor hasn't won a fight in like 5 years. And there are so many guys that are in there grinding their ass off, working their ass off, trying to go and kind of just to throw Conor McGregor right in the main event spot after he lost 3, 4, 5 fights in a row. He had that nasty leg break a couple years ago. Like, I just don't think it's right. I mean, it doesn't excite me enough to where I'd buy the event and buy the pay-per-view. I think it's time that, you start putting Conor on earlier in the card. Until he starts getting some wins going, I really think, he could be a co-main or even before the co-main, man. Like I said, his name still brings the numbers, but unfortunately, he's lost to Dustin Poirier twice. He lost to Khabib. There's 3. I mean, who really can he beat? I mean, if Michael Chandler goes in there with a good game plan, Michael Chandler should beat him. If Michael Chandler doesn't Eddie Alvarez and freezes like a deer in headlights, he could get knocked out. But at the end of the day, man, I'm a big Conor McGregor fan. I just don't think it's right to see him at the top spot at UFC 300.
So I think actually you hit the nail on the head, because I think that he's starting to feel like he's going to have a potential trouble against Mike Chandler. He mentioned at the Ngannou fight even, hey, usually you're out of boxing this long, you should come in with a tune-up fight. And he's like, but they're throwing me right back in the mix, but hey, I guess that's it, whatever. So it did appear that he, maybe he's just feeling like, hey, let me ease into it a little bit, because I do think with one more loss is going to be a problem. Now, do I think they would ever not have him headline? I don't think so. His name is still way, way, way too big. I think he'd have to get a couple more losses before something like that would happen. He's still, hate to say it, but he's still probably the biggest star in mixed martial arts. But it does seem like there's a lot of interesting things happening here with Nate Diaz. Do you think possibly they're trying to slide Michael Chandler aside and slot Nate Diaz in there, and maybe that's the holdup? Maybe they can't come to terms, and that's the issue.
Well, I mean, if you were to fight on UFC 300, would you rather fight Michael Chandler or Nate Diaz? I know who I'd rather fight.
Yeah, Nate Diaz, 100%.
I mean,
Yeah.
although he has cardio for days, he doesn't have that one-shot knockout power. He's not going to try to take him down. You know, you look at someone like Mike Chandler. You know, Mike Chandler, we're not really sure what game plan he's going to go in there. He could come in there and really put on a wrestling pace in there. You know, he might come in there and try and slug it out and give that. But Mike Chandler has one-shot knockout power. You saw what he did to Tony Ferguson with that. I don't know if it was a lead or a rear teep kick to the jaw. You know,
crazy.
You don't see Nate Diaz knocking guys out like that. So, you know, maybe Connor's like, all right, well, you know, Nate Diaz is, you know, basically a 500 fighter. We're 1-1. This would be huge. I mean, I think for the company, that's a great company fight. But again, I don't think it's main event worthy. And I do agree with you. Conor McGregor's name still is big enough to be that main event. And, you know, and it's going to be. I just feel I'd rather see like John Jones in there, somebody, a true 15-year vet of the UFC, undefeated, has beaten everybody, man. Find John Jones an opponent for the heavyweight title. You know, put Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz as the co-main. Unfortunately, obviously from a business standpoint, from standpoint, that's not going to happen. You know, Conor is going to be the main. But I just think there's too many other guys right now that are coming up, working their asses off, that deserve that spot over Conor McGregor.
That's fair. Okay. And I totally, look, what you're saying is 100% right. But now I'm going to show you this. We're going to move on to this fantasy matchup here. And it's going to kind of go, a little bit against what you're saying, because in this fantasy matchup, let me just pull it up here. I'm trying to share my screen. But in this fantasy matchup, they do have Conor versus Mike Chandler as the headlining fight. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. I always have a little bit of trouble pulling this up, but it's so cool. I'm gonna cite where I saw it. It was on. We've got our Instagram kind of up and running now, and I've been following all these different MMA accounts and stuff like that, and that's where I saw this really, really cool post. Okay, give me 1 second. It is wild. If something like this, I bet you they are trying to plan something like this. But how many of these fights would actually come together? We're about to see. But okay, hold on. Let me pop it up here. Almost got it ready. Boom, boom. Get rid of that. Throw this up. All right, here we go. Finally got it. All right. Sorry, guys. Still learning the ins and outs of the share screen, but I'm getting better. Here we go. Okay, I want to get your thoughts on this whole thing, and let's go to the next topic. Okay, so they have it starting McGregor versus Chandler. I know maybe you're not the biggest fan, but look at this. Aspinall versus Pereira for the light heavyweight. Now, I've heard people talk about that. I think it seems a little bit crazy. I think Aspinall would have not an easy time, but I think he'd definitely have a major advantage against Pereira. Check out some of these other fights. We've got Edwards versus Makhachev for the welterweight title, which is crazy. Gaethje versus Holloway. I think some people have been talking about that as well. Wei Lee and Alexa DeGrasso, and then Chimaev versus Adesanya. So that's the main card. You can see the prelims are still stacked as well. There's Nate Diaz showing up with Dustin Poirier. But imagine something like this. And this is the thing that Dana was saying, is that with UFC 300, he wants it to be where people are going crazy about the prelims. Forget about the main event. What are your initial thoughts on some of these fights or some of these matchups
This is an incredible card, man. I really like this hypothetical card. Tom Aspinall and Pereira, man, that's a great stylistic matchup. You know, a striker versus, you know, a really gritty, grimy, you know, guy that's going to get in there and be unorthodox. Leon Edwards versus Islam, that probably is the top of the cake for me. That would be really, really impressive. Islam going up a weight class, you know, taking out somebody like Colby Covington, you know, handily in his last fight to come against another striking wrestler. I think that'd be a great match. Man, you look at Max Holloway versus Gaethje, another one. We got a banger versus a precise striker. Can Holloway put the pace on Gaethje, and can Gaethje not land that big shot? You know, anytime I see Wei Lee fighting, I think she's awesome. I love tuning to her. And then Adesanya and Chimaev, man. I mean, I think that's a great matchup for Chimaev, and it's not good for Adesanya. So, I mean, if half of this card worked out, I'd be very satisfied. But again, I'm more excited about these fights on the before the main than I am Conor McGregor versus Mike Chandler. And you know, it's for casual fans. You know, I'm sure they want to see Conor McGregor. And again, I don't want it to sound like I hate Conor McGregor. I think he's awesome. I think he's a great businessman. I think he's done incredible things in the sport. But to me, I just don't feel that he's done enough in the recent years to earn that UFC 300 main fight.
No, I totally get it. You know, the fight that I would be most excited about, because he is kind of my favorite active fighter right now, is Hamza Chimaev. This fight, Chimaev versus Adesanya. You know what's crazy too? I feel like Chimaev doesn't get his due. You know, when he first came onto the scene, think about it. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, he's a buzzsaw." He's sorry if you can hear Cosmo. He's crying a little bit, trying to calm him down. But like he was just buzzsawing through everybody, and people were like, "Imagine if one day he fights Kamaru Usman. How would that go?" People were all talking about it left and right, and then it just happened, and he won. I mean, I think he pretty convincingly won. He got a bad hand injury as well throughout that fight, and people are just brushing it aside. Oh, he didn't look that good. His cardio is bad. Like, it's crazy. All these things that people were hypothesizing about, they happen. So I think. And I think Shemaev would have a great. It would be a great matchup for him as well against Israel Adesanya. So that would be amazing. That would be stunning. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. You know, when I first saw this image, I was like, "Oh my God, they announced it. This is crazy." But
Yeah, you
yeah,
thought it was the
nah.
real thing, sure.
I thought it was really, yeah, but it's just hypothetical. So I guess we'll see what happens. Okay, let's move on. I wanted to talk about this story because this has to do with your teammate Sean Strickland. You sent me a video of him training today, but let me just get the source right. I think it was MMA. Let me see.
MMA
Sean
junkie.
Strickland. I think it was MMA Junkie, yeah, Fighter of the Year. So he was nominated Fighter of the Year. Like, yeah, just love to get your thoughts as his teammate. And I know you're obviously a big supporter of Sean Strickland, everything he does.
Dude, I'm a huge supporter of Sean Strickland, man. I know, like I said, I've said this in every video. Love him or hate him, the guy works his ass off. Personally, I love Sean Strickland. I love his bluntness. I love the way he talks. That he doesn't hold his punches in his interviews. He'll tell you how you feel about him. You know, Huzaifa, when you come out here, and I'm gonna introduce you to him, and you know that's the Sean you're gonna get. There's no Colby Covington, Sean Strickland act. That's
Yeah,
how the guy
yeah,
is. He's on the camera, he's off the camera, he's the same guy. You know, and you just don't really want to catch him on a bad day. But again, fighter of the year, man. I mean, he's an inspiration, dude. He's the epitome
yeah.
of inspiration. The guy is all hard work and grit. You know, he runs his mouth, he talks the talk, and walks the walk. Unlike a lot of fighters these days, I have nothing but respect for Sean Strickland, and I wish him the best in the future.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I think, like, I think that's one of the reasons why he resonates with people so much, is you can kind of tell when somebody is just themselves authentically. And that's why I think a lot of people resonate with him. And also his rise to this championship was just crazy. You know, I heard that in the fighter interviews, I don't know if you can confirm or deny this. I heard in the fighter interviews leading up to the Adesanya fight, he was even like, "Yeah, man." And this is, I think John Anik said this. Hey, I don't even know if I'm supposed to be here. I wasn't the original fighter selected for this fight, and I kind of got slotted in. So, like, he was feeling that way, and that honesty, I think, is all part of what makes Sean Sean. Like, I mean, he was just like, "Hey, this is how I'm feeling." But he still went out there despite that. And we talk a lot about fighter psychology and how much that impacts a fighter and whatnot. But like, I think he was himself. He went out there. Maybe he felt like it kind of happened out of the blue and he had short notice, and which is all true. But then on top of it, he went in and then performed in spite, or maybe because maybe those nerves are what propelled him. I think that's part of the reason why. Oh, sorry, he's just really tripping out. I'm gonna see if he calms down, if I let him be there. But yeah, maybe those are part of the reasons too why it was that much more of an impressive victory, and another reason why they chose him as fighter of the year. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that when you come into a situation like that, sorry, just making sure the little man's not going too crazy. Do you think when you come into a situation like that, where you do feel like you kind of get slotted in and you have, you're on short notice, like that can play in your favor? That did play in his favor to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Because for instance, my UFC debut, I talked to Frank Camacho, a little bit after. Short notice fights are
Mhm.
dangerous for the guy that's been training for the fight, because that champ or the fighter has been training for a specific fight for 8 weeks, and then 2 days before you're going to switch the style on him. It definitely it can play both ways, though. You know what I mean? Like, again, you don't always get a full camp, but if you're training like Sean is, and how I was at the time, before I got my UFC call. You can step up and rise to the occasion. On the other hand, if you're not training and you're not ready, it could go really bad for you. But like I said, Sean's always training. He showed up. He rose to the occasion after getting brutally knocked out by Piera right before that. He showed up. He beat the guy that beat the guy that beat him on short notice. I mean, what else do you want from the guy?
You know what's crazy? It makes you rethink that Pereira fight too. It's like, it was kind of, look, anybody can get caught, right? And it was kind of a random shot. He got caught. Hey, great hook, whatever. But it just makes you think, man, he probably could have beaten Pereira. He probably would have beaten Pereira too had he just missed that. You know what I mean? Had that shot not connected. It's
Absolutely,
crazy.
and I think if Sean fought Pierre again, the game plan would be different. I really thought going into the camp, watching his camp, because he was grappling and wrestling so much, I'm like, he's going to put his pace on him, and then when he puts Pierre against the wall, he's going to take him down, or try to take him down. And Sean's just really not that kind of guy. He's probably like, this is the best striker I've ever faced. I want to strike with the best striker I ever did, and unfortunately, it didn't go his way. But when he fought Adesanya the next fight, it did go his way. So you never know what's going to happen in an MMA fight.
It's crazy, and I think also too with this next fight coming up, there's actually a lot of really great hype behind it. I think for people who are kind of like bigger fans of the sport like me, I was excited regardless. And obviously, you had the little dust up at the last fight and whatnot, so that's definitely getting a lot of buzz. But that's going to be a really interesting fight, and I think once Sean is victorious there, man, it's gonna just skyrocket him. He's already such a massive star, but I think it's gonna be crazy. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to that. And yeah, congratulations to Sean. What an epic ride. And from the fan perspective, we love it. We love going on that ride with somebody who's kind of coming up on the come up and then achieving all this greatness and doing the right thing and saying the right stuff and being entertaining but being true. It's a really fun journey, so congratulations, and we want to keep seeing him do well. And to keep it on Extreme Couture, we just had one quick topic, and again, we want to do this Christmas show just to put something out there, and we're so excited about the show, so we thought it was fitting. Why not? But let's finish it off with a final topic, somebody that super well, another member of Extreme Couture, Eric NickSick. So I thought it'd be pretty cool to touch base on your coach, man. You've known him for a long time. What makes Eric NickSick the best of the best? I mean, let's see, Sean Strickland, Francis Ngannou. Obviously, I know he's worked with Aljamain Sterling, like so many champions that have come to Extreme Couture and worked with him. Dan Ige. What makes Eric NickSick? Oh yeah, Shemaev has come through there too, right?
Darren Till.
So, like, what is it? What do you think would be the components that makes him a tremendous coach and a tremendous fight coach?
Well, without sucking his dick a little too hard, because I've known him for even before, it's man, I tell you what, me and Eric go so far back. I've known Eric since before he was the gym manager, before he was a fight coach. He just was a civilian coming in the gym, ex-college football player. When it comes to sports, Eric is so smart, whether it's football, whether it's MMA, whether it's fucking any sport. This guy is a super athlete. Again, he played a really high level of college football. I know he had some injuries in college football. I'm not going to say prevented him from getting the NFL, but again, super athlete. Now, what separates Eric from other coaches is his mental game. When Eric can, there's a saying that Tommy Boy in the movie Tommy Boy, that they said that he says, "Oh, Tommy Boy, your dad could sell a woman ketchup and that's wearing white gloves," and that's the Eric NickSick factor. Eric NickSick makes you believe, even if you don't believe in yourself, but to believe in the process and believe in what you're capable of. And in MMA, I really think that's the biggest hole in it. And I'm not even getting into his technical aspect, because we're talking about a guy that's constantly learning. He's training with some of the best grappling coaches in the world, the best striking coaches in the world. He's picking everything from all these different coaches, and he's making his own for him and his fighters. Not to mention his pre-fight analysis of his fighters' opponents it's a step above most. And so, regardless of the technical aspect, every good coach has a great technique to him. But Eric's biggest weapon is his mental fortitude. And again, making a fighter believe he can do something that maybe he doesn't believe he can do is a special trait in itself. And that to me is Eric NickSick's secret weapon.
And what about like the little details? Like, for example, I don't know if you've ever read this book called Tools of Titans, but what's that guy's name? Did the 5-hour work week. I'm totally blanking on his name now, but kind of a famous podcaster and whatnot. But anyways, he interviews all these super successful people and he tries to find the commonalities between them in terms of rituals and routines and stuff like that. What about on a day-to-day, like these are just things I'd be curious about me personally. Like, is he like hardcore about everybody showing up on time? Is he hardcore about having like a supportive team unit? Like, what would you say are his big, like, foundational principles in terms of how he operates?
That's a big thing. So before Eric, so the head coaches at Extreme Couture are Eric NickSick and Dennis Davis, obviously. And before that, it was Robert Follis. Now, Robert Follis was that guy that, hey, you got to pick up all the crumbs. You got to be on time. You got to have your knee pads. You got to have the proper gear. You got to have the tape for your gloves. And these are things Robert Follis instilled in our team before, Eric and
Mm-hmm.
Dennis really taking over. And this is something
Mm-hmm.
Eric's really picked up on too, picking up those breadcrumbs, leaving no stone left unturned.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's all these little things, that you do consistently over and over and over. If you show up late 2 minutes every day, how many minutes is that at the end of the year? You say you train 5 days a week. All right, well, there's 52 weeks in a year, so 5 times 52 times 2. You're the math whiz. Come on, how many of those minutes
Mm-hmm.
are we off the mat that we should have been on the mat?
Yep.
And those are
Yep.
the breadcrumbs that Eric NickSick talks about a lot. I'm so happy to see how far he's come as a coach, how far he's come as a leader. I'm proud to call him a friend. I'm proud to call him coach. I'm proud to call him the manager of Extreme Couture, because again, this guy, he's one thing that he's doing, that I learned early on in my career from Martin Kampman, super UFC vet. He's constantly learning. And that's the biggest thing is I think a lot of guys, especially like you say, grappling world, once they become a black belt, they feel they're at the top of the top. Their way's their way, and that's the best way. They're a black belt. They know. That's not how Eric is. Eric will go around asking other people, well, what do you think of this? Hey, Justin, what do you think of this? Hey, Dennis, what do you think of this? Constantly trying to get different opinions, constantly trying to evolve his take, and constantly trying to become the best coach he can. And with that kind of mindset and that kind of determination, the sky's the limit because he's going to keep the game of MMA is changing. When it first started in the 90s,
Yes.
you could be a karate guy, I could be a wrestler, and I'm probably going to win. Now, if you don't know how to strike, if you don't know how to wrestle, we were talking about the one dimension of Colby Covington. He's being
Yeah.
exposed now because everybody is so good at everything, and Eric is constantly
Yeah.
changing
Crazy.
to the game. His striking technique is getting better. His grappling technique is getting better. His game plan, his pre-fight analysis is getting better. And as long as he keeps
Mhm.
getting better, our team keeps getting better, and that's what we contribute Eric NickSick for.
Yeah, and you know what's these parallels are what I love so much about the sport in terms of what you're talking about right now. It's the same in my business, dude. It's the same in the tutoring game as well, right? In education, that game is constantly changing, and if you're not moving with the times, you're going to get passed by. It's just a matter of when. It's a matter of a week or a year or 10 years or 5 years, whatever. It's going to happen. Same thing is happening, and I think in MMA we're seeing that evolution happening right before our eyes at a rapid pace. Like these well-rounded fighters and all this, and just these, I guess you could say, right, the one-dimensional, or the fighters that have extreme strengths in like either wrestling or grappling or striking are sort of getting phased out. So that's so cool. And he pulled off the unimaginable this year with Francis Ngannou in the boxing match, which is wild. So anyways, I thought this was a great way to kind of wrap up our, it's all right, buddy. I don't know if you can hear Cosmo, but he's crying.
He's crying,
But
just
we
crying
can,
a little bit, no big deal.
he's crying a little bit, but we can wrap up our Christmas episode here, and we'll chop this up into some shorts, and we'll be back again this Friday. And again, guys, Western Mass Climber, I know you're on, and we appreciate the support as always. And everybody else who has subscribed and checked this out, we really appreciate it. And if you're coming, hey man, Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you so much. And if you are joining and checking this out on the replay, and you do want to give us a shot and see what else we're coming out with, please do so. We got some cool ideas for this week. As we know, we're kind of in a lull period. We're probably going to talk about our favorite fights that we'd love to see in 2024. We're going to do a list and maybe some other fun ones as well. So anyways, thank you guys so much for joining. Justin, thank you. And we will see you guys next time on Friday. Take it easy. All right. Justin, you